Hello, hello, hello. Thanks again for all of you who are joining us here today. My name is Patrick Clore, and I am the Director of Marketing for the Fundraising Solutions vertical here at Community Brands, which covers our two fundraising technologies, GiveSmart as well as MobileCause. Today's call is going to focus on key learnings from the last 12 to 18 months and how we can take those learnings, whether they were forced or otherwise, with us going forward. And I'm thrilled to be joined today by two women who are quite well versed in this area, to say the least. Kathy Nothnagel, who is our content manager team lead, who, among a million other things, makes sure the content that we put out there is directly relevant to each of you and all of the organizations that you represent, as well as Madison Cowman, who is our marketing campaign manager, making sure that not only does that content get communicated, but also that we communicate in a personalized way that best represents your organizations as well as the communities that you serve. So Kathy and Madison, thanks to both of you for being here with us.
Hello. Yes, I'm excited.
No, it's going to be great. And in addition to each of the roles that these two women occupy today, I'm also excited to have this conversation with these two powerhouses because combined, they have over 20 years of working directly at nonprofits of varying degrees and sizes throughout the country. From Kathy's background, covering from things such as recruitment, volunteer and staff coaching, event management, and a million other things. Madison covering the nonprofit space from communications, marketing, copywriting, and a billion other things. So suffice to say that we have brought in some ringers here to end the year out on a high note. And to get the housekeeping stuff out of the way first, we anticipate that our call today is going to go in the neighborhood of about 45 to 50 minutes. And we will be taking questions throughout the call, starting exactly now. So please throw any and all questions, no matter how simple or nuanced they might be, into the Q&A section, and we will address them throughout the course of our conversation. Some of the stuff, if it's directly relevant to the topic at hand, we'll cover there. Otherwise, we've allocated time at the end for a Q&A session. We'll also be sharing different resources through the chat function that you'll see on this webinar. So make sure to keep an eye out on that. And lastly, I will preemptively answer the number one question, which is that we are indeed recording this call, and we will send out the recording as well as any materials that we share in our follow-up email, which you can look for your inboxes by noon tomorrow as we get everything processed. So with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's get rocking and rolling. For today's conversation, really we're starting and ending with your feedback, and sandwiched in between is going to be a combination of past, present, and future. There are no ghosts though, so it's going to be great. So we're going to start off by looking at some top takeaways of fundraising from the last 12 to 18 months. Then through those kind of takeaways and some of the things, what are the best in real life examples of the most creative, innovative, fun, successful fundraising events that we've come across? And then lastly, we'll look into our crystal ball for some 2002 forecasting and beyond. Then, so to get us started here is we wanted to just kind of take a pulse check of where everybody is. And we know each organization kind of operates on some different timelines. So wanted to just gauge from everybody as we look forward, are you planning to include virtual components to your 2022 in-person fundraisers? Yes, absolutely. No, we've decided against it, or we're kind of up in the air. And Madison, while folks are weighing in, I'm curious, if you can just tell us a little bit more about kind of what are we anticipating? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to as it pertains to the 2022 event schedule?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've been hearing recently is that a lot of organizations are looking toward 2022 having in-person events again, and welcoming their donors back into their local spaces, but also having some virtual components with their now in-person events. So we're really excited to share some data with you later on in the webinar. We did a pre-webinar survey earlier this morning, and thank you to those of you attending who filled it out. You'll see the results of that a little bit later, but definitely seeing a trend towards in-person events, which is really exciting and well overdue.
No, that is awesome. We're going to end the poll, and then I'm going to bring up the results here. And so while we got everything up, Madison, I'm curious how this stacks up with what you would have anticipated.
This checks out. Yeah, this is really close to what our survey results look like as well. Like if you're planning to include virtual components with in-person fundraisers, 52% said yes, definitely. 42% said not sure yet, considering it, so maybe you just haven't decided. And 6% said no. So we're going to take a look at some examples today, go over some lessons that we've learned, and kind of share some thoughts on in-person, on virtual, on hybrid, and we'll go from there.
All right, awesome. Well, with that, we will get ourselves started here by going in reverse. So, as mentioned, we're going to start off by diving into some of those lessons over the past two crazy, insert whatever other word is appropriate for you, years, and supplement those lessons with some of these outstanding campaign examples. So, Madison, I will toss it back over to you just to start us off with some of these lessons that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So without focusing too much or too long on something we all know because we've all lived through it, and how crazy the last 2 years have been, we wanted to focus on 2020 and 2021 because they have been 2 years full of lessons for everyone, especially nonprofit organizations trying to benefit the communities around them. In early 2020, we saw our nonprofit partners cancel over 600 events on the GiveSmart platform, but a good majority of them ended up pivoting their events to, virtual auctions and other virtual types of events. And by doing so, they saw great success. But starting from that moment and fast forwarding to today, what are some overarching umbrella lessons that we've learned? We asked our GiveSmart colleagues and some of our customers some of their biggest takeaways, and these are some highlights. One, you have the best chance at success. Made myself a tongue twister there. If you have what you need to back you up. And in most cases, we saw that it was technology and a platform to pivot to that everyone needed as their flotation device during an unprecedented time. Two, work smarter, not harder, meaning use the resources around you to make your life easier so you can do more for less, reach more success, and really focus on stewarding your donors and focusing on what's important and less of the nitty-gritty details. That includes templates, checklists, and more. Three, be creative. Take advantage of your new opportunities, try new events, new fundraisers, new ways to reach your donors, new ways to steward relationships. The more creative we've seen some of these organizations be, the more success that they have seen. And four, new traditions can be fun. We were all forced out of our comfort zones and forced to think outside of the box. Some of those new ideas and practices are here to stay, and your donors agree. So those are some of our biggest takeaways from the past 2 years. And I will pass it off to Kathy to start deep dive into our first lesson.
Thank you, Madison. So as Madison had mentioned, having the tech to back you up, one of definitely the most important things that we learned over the past 18 months is that having technology was a saving grace in a lot of ways. In our daily lives, having, meetings go to Zoom, face-to-face family events, having FaceTime opportunities and online experiences certainly exploded. And all of that definitely is true in the nonprofit space. And, when we think about things that we've all done, so I know in my own personal life now I'm making reservations for things I would have never made reservations for, like at the zoo with my membership or whatever. And also doing curbside pickup, saving grace. So there are a lot of things that consumers in the general space are used to and adapted to and prefer. And so if you're kind of not meeting them where they're at, you might be missing some opportunities. And again, all of that kind of applies to the nonprofit space too. And for those 42% of you who said you weren't sure if you were going to include a virtual element, AKA you weren't necessarily convinced of doing a hybrid event. Hopefully our chit chat today inspires you to at least consider it or talk to someone about it. But, technology can definitely be a tool. And what we found and what we saw, and Madison, I think you would agree, that we had a lot of people who originally came to GiveSmart just to do an auction at an in-person event. That's all they ever thought of us as being. And then when that wasn't a possibility, they had to shift, and it's like, well, what else can this do for us? And we still have people, and I'm sure some of you are on this call, who come to us and say, you guys have always talked about, voting, but I've never really experienced or taken a look at how it should work. What can I do? Can someone help me? And of course, those answers are yes. So you might even have tools that you're not totally aware of. And that's our job to help you. And please, please, please raise your hand and ask those questions. But technology definitely makes it possible and is a tool that when used correctly can definitely help facilitate and automate a lot of your event management. Believe it or not, helps you with stewardship pieces from the data and insights that you get. Certainly helps drive fundraising with things like automatic bidding that we have, or automatic, bidding when you get outbid on GiveSmart, and kind of other automation. And there's a whole lot more. And it can help you manage your communications. So you can schedule your text messages on GiveSmart. You can update your events, and we're going to be sharing, or update your web pages. We're going to be sharing examples kind of throughout today. And you can see in some of those that people are updating their GiveSmart homepage kind of with details, or with, vaccine requirements, or whatever those things may look like. And all of that helps you improve and simplify the donor experience, and certainly frees up your time as staff and volunteers to do the fundraising. You're not spending time answering questions that could have been available. Those answers could have been available for your supporters to see. So I know, Madison, you, like I had mentioned before, you definitely have some experience with, you were grateful that you had tech when you needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was with a nonprofit at the beginning of 2020, and we had actually just signed on with GiveSmart to run our annual gala auction, the whole nine. And within 2 weeks of signing on, we had to completely pivot the event and make it a silent auction, virtually, everything online. But thankfully we had the technology we needed to make that change happen, because if we hadn't been looking for new opportunities, about a month prior, we wouldn't have been able to make that switch with the previous technology that we were using. And I think the other part that I just wanted to take away from what you were saying, Kathy, is just always consider what portions of your events you can turn virtual. Like you said, because we used in other events throughout the year, ticketing for a virtual race. We used instant items, donation items, so many different variations and creative features on GiveSmart. And it really helped us save our fundraising in 2020.
That is awesome. And I know we've, thanks for the people who've started to send in a few questions. Overall, the one of the ones I'm curious that for Kathy and Madison, that if I kind of paraphrase one of the ones that came in, is I feel like before pandemic and some of these things, one of the common things that we would hear from different organizations throughout the country is, I have a more mature donor base, so doing things the way we've always done them, or doing something pen and paper. There was a digital laggard approach or a mentality that it just seems like was pervasive. But I think, Kathy, to the point that you made from a consumer standpoint, my 95-year-old grandma FaceTimes me all the time, and it's great, but she knows that, and the same way that my 2-year-old niece can figure it out. So I'm curious on your, in each of your experiences and conversations that you've had, as well as just your own experiences on a day-to-day basis, does it seem like there's more embrace of just technology, be it fundraising technology or other mediums throughout the industry?
I would say so. And I would say, like, I know we've had, because it comes up a lot, Patrick, to your point, it comes up a lot. And it certainly came up kind of at the beginning of all of this. And I know, I can't remember what organization it was, but we were doing a webinar. I was interviewing them for a case study, and they said, like, it's kind of like a unicorn. Like, you pretend like it's a huge monumental undertaking, or it's something that people can't adapt to, and then you're forced to, and we're forced to as consumers for lots of things. I mean, from making dentist appointments to even, like, I'm a Bears fan because I'm a glutton for punishment. So you have to be able to get the tickets on your phone. And there's a lot of, I remember I had a beloved volunteer, and he had to, like, get a smartphone and figure it out. And he did. So I think, there's a lot of other instances where that happens, but I also think, like, the people who have a true problem with it, it's very far and few between. And I think, Madison, you were chatting that, like, for those people who do have a problem, like, that's who you are there to help. And likely they're donors who you do want to steward and you do want to walk through it. But I would argue that it wasn't as monumental of a mountain before. And certainly now it's an adaptation that most people have made. That's my take. And it's what we're hearing. It's what we're hearing from customers, that they felt like it was going to be a big deal, and now it's not.
No, I think that is perfect stated. And then the other question, the as we summarize kind of the 4 lessons again, as we head into some of these great examples that we're excited to share with everybody of having technology works, working smarter, not harder, being creative and embracing new traditions. It seems to me, at least just in listening to the two of you talk, that's all predicated on having the technology or having systems of record or just efficiencies, because I think it would seem, and I'm curious each of your 2 takes on it, seems like it's a lot more easy to be creative and adapt to creativity or kind of adapt to something on the fly, as well as from an efficiency. And if your workforce has to go remote for a period of time or some of those things, it seems like if we were going to power rank them, having this technology and doing the things kind of behind the scenes to set yourself up for success allows the other 3 to happen overall. Does that sound relatively in the right frame of what you guys have seen in your experiences, Madison and Kathy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I always loved when like past decisions were made that made current Kathy's life easier. I always think past Kathy, sometimes she's not so great, but I would feel the same way about kind of setting yourself up for success. And technology is just one way that absolutely it fuels and funnels kind of the opportunities for the others without question.
Oh, that's awesome. So with that being said, I know we have a bunch of examples that we'll get to and are excited to share. So Madison, I will toss it back to you for this first one here.
Yeah, absolutely. So going off of all of this, our first example is the Hospice Foundation of Central New York. And they have held 2 really, really great events that I wanted to highlight. One of them being their drive-in movie night. It was called the Night of a Million Dreams, and it was a drive-in movie night held to replace their canceled annual gala. They projected a movie on the side of a stadium, which is incredible. They projected The Greatest Showman. And then they had a fireworks send-off for leaving guests. They had food trucks. The feedback that we've heard is that guests loved it and asked for it to come back. And that it allowed them to reach an audience that they don't typically reach with their gala. And during a time like this that we've been going through, it was great to get messaging out to different types of groups. They were able to use the ticketing option to check their guests in that night on iPads and cell phones, and that ran really smooth. They had a silent auction that reached people who weren't at the event and brought in some great money for them, as well as raffles. And, like I said, guests loved it and are asking for it to come back. So maybe they'll do that and their gala, but how amazing to have something that you had to pull out of a hat and your guests absolutely adored it. I mean, I wish I could have been there. I love The Greatest Showman, so I will watch it on the side of a stadium happily. And then the other example is they held a fantasy golf open, and it was a hybrid golf event. They had ticketing, they had raffles, which all add up to revenue enhancers. Clear instructions for registration and participation. They used an app for the golf participation part of the event, and it was called TDJ Golf. They had a silent auction component. They had donate items, instant items, silent auction items. Like they just had like the whole 9. And by integrating GiveSmart and the golf app and offering a silent auction, they had some really, really great results. They made around $28,000 for the event, and they're hoping to do it again for next year's tournament because it turned out so well, and they also had a great response from that. So it just shows that we may have had to force our hands, but some of these things are going to get worked into our future plans, and having the technology to pivot and make your events different but inclusive is so important for your donors. So, and the campaign links also for these 2 events, if you want to go in and check them out, those will be in the chat. And I think Kathy, you are on our next example.
I am. So I know we've talked about Hyacinth AIDS Foundation many, many, many times, but they're, I think, a great example of what we're talking about that, perhaps you had really only used us for a gala, but now you have this technology that you've paid for, that you've invested in, and how can you use it to help you raise money, or to help to continue engage with your donors and more. So they did a virtual drag queen bingo, and a lot of it was tied to holidays. So I think this one up here is about St. Patrick's Day, but they did a holiday one. They did a Halloween one. They did a Valentine's Day one. And what else I think is nice to mention is that they did some specifically for corporate teams, or like corporate sponsors. So like a specific just for that business, and raise some money that way too. And that's kind of a nice way to partner with businesses if maybe your traditional sponsorship wasn't available, or it was just a nice way to engage with some of those corporate donors. And they've had a lot of success. They figured it out. It was family friendly. They could sell additional cards with GiveSmart's kind of embeddable and customizable forms. And they raised a pretty decent amount of money for something, and had a lot of fun doing it. And then they did do a fundraising campaign for their 35th anniversary. It was supposed to be a big year, and that was in 2020, so they couldn't come together, which was obviously a disappointment. But they definitely made a nice transition and shift, and they not only had success, but they used, again, some tools that were out there that they didn't necessarily initially go after. So I believe they had some really good recurring giving. I think they definitely incorporated some sponsorships into that campaign. I believe they still had some items available for bidding, even though it was like an online fundraising campaign. Did some raffles, things like that. It's just, they're a prime example of saying, okay, what do we have and how can we use it and how can we continue to fund our mission, and really taking a strategic, kind of a back step and a strategic look at what can we do to still have a really great time and a really great donor experience. And they did the same with their gala that was very recently, just a couple weeks ago. And it was a hybrid event. So they had people who were in the room, and then they had people who were at home. I do know that they promoted that to some of those like bingo players and some of those families who maybe even wouldn't be coming to a gala typically, but were excited about bidding or donating to the gala and watching it. So I think that's important too, that when you do these maybe smaller events, that you grow a donor base that is going to be willing to support you. And it might surprise you. But they also did something that I know we're going to talk a little bit about later, but within their gala, they also incorporated peer-to-peer fundraising, which not everybody, I think, thinks of initially doing, but we've seen a lot of customers have success doing that with GiveSmart champions and having their board or high-level volunteers get involved in fundraise that way. And I mean, we've had some customers raise like 20% of their gala revenue doing that. So it's just something to consider. It's a tool that's available to you with GiveSmart. And again, hopefully, this conversation today about tech inspires some of you, maybe virtual on the fence folks, to really consider doing a hybrid event. And Madison, I think it's you talking about Dancing with the Stars. You get fireworks and Dancing with the Stars, which is pretty exciting.
That is true. Kathy, a question actually on this one, because I'm curious in your mind, as we look at the example where they had a milestone moment of the 35th anniversary, and the original blueprint wasn't able to be executed. And so the modified version is, I'm curious in your mind for other organizations who had a milestone moment, be it in 2020, 2021, that they held off on. And so
Sure.
let's say in this same scenario where as now people make their 2022 plans, even though it's year 36, what would be your advice if somebody, I'm curious, if somebody held off, they weren't able to celebrate or kind of promote the milestone moment, whatever it may have been over the past couple of months here. Is that something you would recommend that they do,
Sure.
even if it's a year later overall, if that makes sense?
Yes. So, again, I said I was a Bears fan before. I'm also a Cubs fan, glutton for punishment for sure. And I know that they did like 100th year of the Chicago Cubs as a team on 100th year of Wrigley Field being a place where they played. So I think there are ways that you can be truthful and say like, we're celebrating our 36th gala, or, we had success over the past 35 years. Like you can still create those milestone moments, I think, with creative language. And if you held off, I think just like anything, being honest. But I know, I see it. Go Cubs, go. Thank you. I just feel that there are definitely ways to say, we missed you and we can't wait to celebrate the 35th year we meant to. I know we've seen a a few customers or I've seen do kind of like even like throwback events. So they're kind of they might do like an 80s theme or a 90s theme or something to kind of be like, we're throwing back and we're going to celebrate the 35th year. Or, I think there's a lot of ways to do so deliberately and strategically and make it a celebration rather than, mourning something you weren't able to do.
No, that is awesome. And I know, and looking in chat and questions again, thanks to everybody, keep sending them in. Jeff Rogers sent one in, call it 35 plus. I like that idea. And I think we're talking about sharing examples, people who kind of made lemonade out of it. But I think for people who've kind of held off, that's a great idea. As we keep kind of the creativity side of it, Madison, it does seem the deck is stacked in your favor because you get pets and dancing and pies to cover here next.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw up a few of these examples that I took from a few different customer campaigns. But another lesson that we considered as we wrap up 2021 is how can we be more creative with our fundraising? And a common misconception is that creative doesn't always mean loads and loads of more work. You can create fast, easy fundraisers that are also fun, new, creative, and a great way to boost revenue. If you host a school fundraiser for pizza kits, cookie dough, wreaths, or even pies, you can turn those into virtual fundraisers with raffles and with instant items and extra ways to donate. You can host voting events for best costume, as we see with Pet Palooza, or a live stream class like a gourmet pizza night, or cocktail kits or something like that. We've seen so many creative fundraisers. There's no way to include all of them on these slides, but we will be sharing in chat some resources that list or explain more creative fundraising events our nonprofit partners have held that we have seen that we like to highlight. So that first one, as you can see, with Suncoast Humane Society, had a Pet Palooza, which was a pet costume voting campaign. The second one is Boy Scouts of America. One of their chapters had a Buy a Pie to Keep Them Dry fundraiser. And then the Faithful Shepherd School, they had a Dancing with Our FS Stars gala. And they also had like a cocktail mix party virtual component that went along with it. And it was really, really great. So a few examples just to kind of get the wheels turning, but some really great creative ideas to boost your revenue, boost your fundraising, and we'll get into more later on how you can do more for less. So with that, Kathy, I will throw it to you for the next examples.
Sure. I also get some creative pet examples, and I'm sure our friends at Utah Humane Society might even be on here right now. But we've talked about them, I know, a few times, but it's worth mentioning. So they did a hybrid event, I think really one of the first ones that we took notice of at Give Smart, and they back in 2020, and then did it again in 2021. It was outdoors, ticketing was online, all of kind of the rules and regulations of how to keep people safe were pretty clearly spelled out on their site because they could edit it really easily. There were human and dog rules, which I think, obviously important, not something all of you will need, but important for them. They had an event map, they had staggered times, and I would imagine, as somebody who did events for many, many years, there is kind of that bum rush when it all kind of happens. So to be able to, stagger times, I know I do that again in like regular consumer life. I have a time for the zoo next weekend, and it just, I think, makes things easier and you can plan better. And so all of those things to say that when they originally signed on with GiveSmart, they didn't necessarily think like, I'm going to need to be able to have dynamic ticketing. I'm going to need to be able to update my website with up-to-date kind of to-the-minute safety information. I don't know if I'm going to need to be able to upload all these images about maps and rules. And, then they had to, and they had the technology available to them, and they were able to be creative and fun. Speaking of creative and fun, I have to be very careful. I talk pretty quickly, as many of you have realized. Flocking July, where it's kind of, there's a lot of iterations of it, but basically you register and you pay a fee to have like someone's yard flocked with cute lawn seagulls. And then I've seen other customers you like include a sponsor sign, definitely include inside about your organization. You should definitely be advertising for yourself at every opportunity. And then the donor can either, I think, choose to, or rather the recipient can either just leave them there, or they can donate to move them to someone else's yard. And it's easy, it's fast, it's really creative. It's definitely, I'm not sure how kind of helped them run it, but I've seen a lot of organizations have a junior board, or like a student board or a college board, do something like this. And what's nice, at least with GiveSmart, is that you can have unlimited admins in the system. So you can set them up on the event and they can really run it from start to finish and have the tool to be successful, and raise money, without having to invest in a whole new platform or learn a whole new thing or whatever. And then you get the benefit of having their donor information, which is ultimately your donor information. They also did a pet voting contest, and who doesn't love to brag about their pets? And what's nice about that, and where we've seen other customers have success with, like, vote for art, or vote for chili recipes, or vote for mac and cheese recipes, or vote for cocktail recipes, pets, costumes, door decorating, is that it's volunteer led, in the sense that you say, send in your application, donate $5, and we'll put your pet up there for voting. And then voting is $1 to vote, or to cast a vote. So then those people can send it out to their family and friends and colleagues. But what's nice about it is, I'm not diminishing work, because it does take work and time, but once you kind of get it set up and put it out there, like any other peer-to-peer fundraiser, the intention is that if you've given the right enablement and right tools, that it kind of raises money and does what it's supposed to do. And it gets, again, new people into your fold who are excited to donate to you, so that you can include them in future fundraisers. So it's a way to get creative kind of with that stewardship piece as well. And they've done a gala. I think we're sharing all of their campaigns in the chat, but they did a really great virtual event that had emojis and a really cool streaming. And they did a fall in love event too, where a sponsor helped waive adoption fees for a certain number of days. And it was kind of a first come, first serve. There's just a lot of things you can do with technology that supports you to be creative, that you're not limited. Hopefully you have something that doesn't limit you in a massive inhibited sort of way. And from everything from Flocking July to Bark at the Moon to dog rolls, Utah Humane Society consistently knocks it out of the park.
No, that's awesome. I think the nice part too is, I think it's great when your own brain is the source of your creative limitations and not have restrictions put on you by different systems overall. And we did have we had one question that came in, which I would also like to know the answer. And so Ellen Harris had asked, did Gannon win this contest? I don't know that we know that answer right now, but we will certainly be looking to find out. And if Gannon didn't, I would love to know who took over the cutest one, but we will try and find that answer and share out once we do. And I know we got some other great examples as we move along overall. And Madison, we'll toss it back over to you.
Sure. Yeah. So another really fun, creative example that we wanted to highlight. This is from the Atlanta Commercial Board of Realtors, and it was Battle of the Broker Bands. It was an in-person event, but they did their ticketing, their backstage passes, t-shirts, everything sold via order form, which you can see virtually. So they had 4 bands perform, and each one of those bands had voting set up on the homepage of the event site. So it was really easy for registrants to go in and vote for their favorite band of the night. We will also have to check and see who the winners of this one was, because I am not sure. But again, just a really great example of having an in-person event, having some of those virtual components. You can, do a live stream that connects those who can't make it in person and still allows them to participate and vote for their favorite band. So if this is something that aligns with your mission that you think your community would love, like, what a great example of being creative and making it fun. Yeah. So Kathy, I will throw it back to you.
Perfect. I have our next lesson, which is, work smarter and not harder. I think easier said than done. But again, if you take a step back and you look at what's in front of you, there are where we saw customers kind of have success and maybe not and feel more grounded in what they were doing. It's people who kind of took a small step back, looked at what was in front of them, and made a strategic plan. So there are endless amounts of resources. A lot of them are sent to you by Give Smart and Mobilecause. And if I would give any advice, this is what I do: is I just file those away into a folder. And when I needed them, I'd be like, oh, I saw something about templates, or I saw something about thank you, Canva templates that someone made for me. Like, how can I find those? And I would go to that folder and seek them out. And it definitely saved me some steps. And I know in our help center, we have a lot of checklists. We have a lot of getting started. We have a lot of that available to customers to make the setup easy. It's not like we say, thanks for, partnering with us and investing in our solution. Good luck. So there's a lot out there. There's a lot of on-demand videos. There's a lot of things to walk you through to empower you to being able to do some of these things. So definitely, take a look at what's out there. I would argue to save kind of those Give Smart Mobilecause emails for a rainy day, or for one of those moments that you can look through and find what's going to be most helpful to you. Find those text, email, social media posts, all those templates. And then your technology certainly can help you do the work for you. I know, I can't remember again what customer it was, but there was a woman I interviewed, and she was like, never again will I have physical raffle tickets. Why did I feel like we had to do that? Every year I'd tell my Give Smart person, I don't know. We do our raffle, like we need tickets. We have a system, we have a plan, we have buckets. She's like, why? Why did I do it that way? There's no reason. She started selling them virtually, and then they did kind of a random draw, like a number generator draw, and it was all still fair and good and followed gaming regulation, all of those things. But it made things so much easier for them to execute. And the same goes for voting. We do have a lot of customers that might have like an in-person, like dessert voting contest or chili, or again, whatever, specialty cocktail. And some of them were using like tokens, or even like cash boxes. And it's like, just have people be able to do that on their phone. People will adapt to that. And you can also, I know we had one customer who it was a baking thing, and they sent out the voting opportunity to like their own friends and family. So it was a way, again, to get more donors in, to raise more revenue. And it's not work on your part, because the voting set up, and if they send it to 500 people on their own, like you didn't have to do that grunt work. So just, again, look at the tools in front of you and see what you can do. Ultimately, the goal is to help you save, certainly your valuable time, and to use the money that you invested in the best way possible and get the highest return. Social media, we talk about it a lot, but there's a lot of opportunity, at the very least, in sharing volunteer stories, having volunteers do guest posts, sharing their, videos of their testimonial at your events and things like that. It's a way to engage with people, to make people feel like your organization holistically cares about your donors, as opposed to just always asking for money. That storytelling goes a very, very, very long way. And as I've mentioned several times before, Give Smart Champions is our peer-to-peer functionality. And we've given a lot of examples about how even in galas and in golf outings and in things like that, we had another customer that did a golf outing where it was like course against course, and whatever course raises the most through peer-to-peer, through champions, they got a special like award, or they might have even gotten mulligans or a decrease in their score or something like that. Like, there are ways to be fun, have prizes that are free, and to raise more money for your organization with the tools that you have in front of you. And they don't have to be, it's not hard. It's not meant to be hard. It's meant to be easy. And if you need any help finding those tools and resources, look in the Help Center and definitely connect with us. And I know Giving Tuesday is hot on everyone's mind, and Madison has some good examples for you to kind of think about for your end of year giving and future Giving Tuesdays, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at these two different examples that we pulled for today, this past Giving Tuesday, which was November 30th, was probably the most use of templates that we've seen. And these are just two examples. So in our Giving Tuesday webinar in October, we mentioned that Giving Tuesday has Canva templates and logos and all kinds of different things that you can take, that you can use to make your Giving Tuesday successful. And our customers took it, they ran with it. And so these are two examples, Maker Girl and Walk with Sally. Maker Girl used templates for their social media, their Instagram stories, their campaign homepage. What we saw from Giving Tuesday this previous year on Instagram stories, there was a huge year-over-year increase in engagement in just Instagram stories that led to someone going to a GiveSmart campaign, which is really interesting because when you consider Facebook posts and tweets and just regular organic Instagram posts, like you don't think that an Instagram story would have that much of an influence getting someone to go to a fundraising page, but they did, which is incredible. Maker Girl joined in October, so this was their first campaign that they did on GiveSmart. And in addition, I also wanted to shout out that on their campaign homepage, they promoted other events. They promoted their Amazon wish list. They made it a week-long campaign. So having one campaign page does make it easier to promote and expand multiple things at once, utilize your campaign page to its fullest. And they made it pretty easy by using these pre-made graphics and templates. We even promoted that our sister company, Mobile Cause, had messaging templates for social media posts, for emails, for text messages. So using these templates was really crucial for these organizations. And the same for Walk with Sally. You can see that they kept the Giving Tuesday theme and branding and incorporated their logo into it versus Maker Girl kind of made it their own with their branding. Both are great examples of taking something that's been, handed to you and using it to the best of your ability and saving yourself a lot of time. And also, I just wanted to mention, if you are a nonprofit, make sure that your organization is listed on Amazon Smile and that your donors, whenever they're placing an order on Amazon, because I know even me right now, I'm placing a ton of Christmas orders on Amazon, make sure that their Amazon orders are benefiting your nonprofit. That is a huge way to make money. And, if you're not signed up for it, don't miss those dollars. Like, make sure that your organization is listed and make sure that your donors are benefiting your organization through Amazon Smile. So those are a couple really great template examples. And Patrick, I know that you had another question for the audience, so I will pass it back over to you.
I did. And I think what is great, as we do, I think I'm a very big fan of the quote that imitation is the highest form of flattery. And so, if you haven't already, make sure to check the chat for some of these direct links. And again, we'll be sending them in the email follow-up for everybody. But one of the things is we wanted to bake in some time to give both Kathy and Madison a chance to take a breath and launch a poll to see for any of you who are joining us today, if there's some follow-up information that we can give you. But one of the other things that while folks are weighing in on this, I know all of you who registered today got an email from Madison earlier with some survey questions that she is going to be covering in a little bit here. But similar to everyone who had participated in that survey, my birthday is on December 25th, which some of you might have some other plans that day. And because of that, and this is our last webinar of the year, is we will also, for anybody who has participated in either of our two polls or sent anything in through the Q&A part, we'll offer a third prize of $250 to that organization as well, just as a way of saying thank you for engaging with it. Our hope is not to just have another webinar, but to produce some content. And so we appreciate all of you engaging with us. So with that, I will end this poll. And, as we kind of enter the third phase, of our agenda, and we go from the past to the present, similar to Kathy, I'm based out of Chicago, so we will now do what every Chicago Bears fan has done since 1985 and look to the future. And so, with that, as we talk about some of these trends and everything, we look at some of the data. Madison, I know you've nerded out a bit on some of these points, so we'll toss it over to you just to talk about what the numbers are showing us and the confidence that gives you looking to the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And love the Chicago Bears reference. That's a great one. I am from Detroit, so between the Lions and the Tigers, I understand. So let's take a second to review some data that we pulled for our 2021 Give Smart Impact Report, which will be coming to your inboxes very soon. Susanna Crawford, our customer marketing manager, is handling this really expansive resource full of data from 2021, but I pulled a few points to give you guys a sneak peek. So when we're looking at 2020 to 2021, we're seeing a 36% increase in dollars raised, a 38% increase in the number of donors. And this is on the Give Smart platform through our customers, events, and campaigns, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, I love it. We're seeing a 7% increase in silent auction bids, 8% increase in the number of donations made. So you can see that numbers are really increasing on our platform. I know that we've heard some customers say that they're a little bit worried because 2020 was such an impactful year in fundraising because everyone wanted to help and everyone wanted to reach out. And that in 2021, they kind of saw, maybe a decrease, but this also shows that, some organizations are going to fluctuate, your fundraising is going to fluctuate, but overall we're seeing growth on the platform. And that is so important for our customers, for their campaigns, for their donors. And so we wanted to highlight these numbers and really show you what we are seeing so that you can be encouraged going into the new year and gain some momentum as you're planning your 2022 events. And Kathy, so I'm going to throw it to you because I know that you want to talk to our audience about reaching out to their donors in the new year and what that's going to look like.
Absolutely.
Actually, on this slide, somebody had asked a question that just because I think it was some of the numbers side, Kathy, that you had talked about previously, which question we get all the time is how much does a virtual event raise or a hybrid event raise in comparison to some of the others? And obviously each, just like a snowflake, each scenario is unique in and of itself. But to the question of do people raise as much in some of the virtual stuff, Kathy, I know you've looked at it and have some good points. So figured we'd ask that question now.
Absolutely. I think often what we saw or what we heard, what we were told, and is that a lot of organizations in 2020 and 2021 hit their net budget or their net budget or came pretty gosh darn close. So when you remove kind of those venue fees, those maybe substantial AV fees about projecting to a large ballroom of 1,000 people, drink and food, that the difference, ultimately the money that goes back to your mission was raised. And we saw that, we heard that again and again and again and again. And where some groups, I think preemptively knew that they were maybe going to fall short, and that actually is a nice tie into here, is that they started doing some new things. So when Madison had talked about projecting the movie on the side of a building, we had some organizations do something like that as a supplement to their annual fundraiser. So they maybe did it as a kickoff and raised, $15,000 that helped them overall hit their budget. So I think in a lot of ways we saw people and not even scrape their way by. Maybe 2020 was a little iffy, but I think in 2021, quite deliberately and strategically, definitely hit their net goal, either with one solid event or I think more accurately used additional tools and or did an additional event or two, smaller, kind of the things we talked about, bingo, drive-in movie and the like. Had a junior board do something to hit those goals and to make up any foreseen revenue gaps. So, I think this chart alone shows that we did have a lot of people have success and growth, which is exciting. It's exciting to see. And it's motivating. It's motivating for me. I hope it's motivating for everyone out there to think about, at least looking at things from a step backwards and saying, what do we have in front of us and what can we do to make an impact for our mission?
No, absolutely. And I know, as we see on this slide, there was a 38% jump in 2021 in terms of donors engaging in the platform, which I think is a good segue to Kathy as we talk about some of this stuff and doing some of these kind of outside the box and different things and establishing new traditions going forward.
My friend Patrick cut out. So he said making new traditions. So I'm going to chit chat about it. So in terms of making new traditions, again, to, I guess, briefly reiterate what I've said is that there's a lot of things that you can do in a virtual sense. And then there's a lot of groups that we saw who kind of made their traditions make sense in a virtual or hybrid way. So doing a meal pickup if there was like a beloved dessert or a beloved portion of the evening that was really important to your donors. We had groups, let's say a specialty cocktail, and whoever got to name it was like a big deal. We had groups do a VIP mixology class and have pickup cocktail kits. We had customers do home cooking lessons. We had, there were just a lot of things. And like Madison had mentioned that drive-in movie, like that's something they're going to do now and something people felt really connected with. So there are a lot of things that you can do for your organization that tie back either to celebrate milestones or anniversaries. And certainly there's things that you can do to make people feel special, because ultimately that's what traditions are. It makes people feel part of a community. There are things that you can do in person or not to keep that stewardship going. And to talk about stewardship a little bit, definitely as you move forward, as we look into 2022, you likely have a whole slew of new donors. We consistently hear that from customers too, that doing some of these smaller events brought in a whole new field of people that they hadn't engaged with otherwise. And that's an exciting thing. And certainly don't forget about them. If they're the ones who carried you through, make sure that you're including them. Maybe they aren't going to come to your event in person, but that's where having that virtual component really helps. With your virtual pool and looking back to people who, like it or not, some people are just event donors and really are excited to be back. As you look ahead to 2022 and 2023, and you're going to re-engage with some of those folks, don't forget about the virtual folks who got you here. Because I think the combination of the two is really going to set a lot of people up for success and continued growth. And as you're planning and looking ahead, we do have an exciting calendar, a fundraising calendar. It talks about some fun ideas, awareness days, definitely shares some more insights and resources. It is a worthy resource to take a look at. Bookmark it on your computer and take a look at it every month. I think it's really going to help some of you see strategically maybe where you could fit in some of those other kind of smaller events or smaller opportunities, or you could encourage your boards or high level volunteers to do the same. And with that, I think Madison's going to almost round us out, and then we will let everyone go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll speed through these last two slides pretty quickly because Kathy covered new traditions very, very well, but I just wanted to highlight this example from the top. They had their Evening of Joy, which is their virtual gala. And something I wanted to highlight was they offered a box of joy, which is, it was a box with, it was a surprise, first of all. So I don't actually know everything that was in the box, but it was something that was filled with items that would enhance their experience watching the gala from home. And so I wanted to highlight this example because this is a way that, whether you're doing something in person, whether you're doing something from home, you can extend these opportunities to your donors to make them feel special and to enhance their experience. And, for those who maybe don't purchase a box, you could still send a smaller or simpler version of something like this. You could even just mail them a physical program of the night's events if they're watching it via live stream. So I think that that's a really great example of new traditions of bringing in these new audiences and making sure that everyone feels the warm fuzzies of the events that you're trying to host. And on to the next slide. So we'll round out with this pre-webinar survey that I was talking about that we sent out earlier. Again, thank you to everyone that submitted a response earlier. We had some really great data. And so I just wanted to highlight 73.6% of those of you who responded are planning to return to in-person events next year, and 58% of those are planning a virtual component. So that's really important, making sure that if you're returning to in-person events, you're not forgetting those who have been carrying you through 2020 and 2021, those who may not be local or in your community. So really encouraging numbers to see where things are kind of shifting and to give you guys an insight into what your peers are planning. I also threw up some quotes at the top of what people are planning, what types of events they're looking at, just a few little highlights. And then that nice little graph is a summary of those rankings of what features in a fundraising platform, specifically GiveSmart in this case, are you looking to use, ranked most important to least important. So we can see donations and silent and live auction items at the top. Could have guessed that. And somewhere in the middle, some of these other item types, a live activity dashboard, which is called Backstage, text to donate. So really interesting to see what features you're looking toward using, and maybe some other ways that we can also create more resources so that if you're unsure about voting or if you're unsure about peer-to-peer campaigns, we'll give you the resources you need to make those campaigns successful. And I think, Patrick, we had a question come through, right, that you wanted to throw my way?
We did, yeah. I think I think a few people asked it in different iterations, but overly simplified. As we talk about a hybrid event, is there anything that we've seen in terms of organizations choosing to go live for their virtual audience? So are they doing some sort of actual live stream so that folks who are watching remotely can engage, or are they sending that after the fact? Kind of how have you seen that been handled?
Yeah, absolutely. A few different ideas here. We have seen live streams, absolutely. Facebook lives, live streaming through the GiveSmart platform. You can connect your live stream through that Backstage feature that I mentioned, so that your audiences are seeing it live as it's happening. We have also seen like video campaigns, so you can upload videos into your event so that your donors can watch those either during or after the fact. So some of it could be recorded, some of it could be live, some of it could be after the fact. You post the recorded live stream from the event. We've seen some different iterations of that. Other ways to connect your offsite donors would be live text messaging, keep them updated on what's going on, what items don't have bids, what's exciting, and really encourage that excitement when they are off the offsite from your event. So those are just a few ideas, and I can include some resources in our follow-up email. But Patrick, I will let you take it away with the takeaways.
No, that is awesome. And I think, as we before this call, I asked both Madison and Kathy to each independently send kind of their main take point each. And I think, similar answers of 2022 is a year for all around growth and new opportunities. So taking advantage of the learnings, again, forced to a large degree or otherwise, taking those opportunities and try and do things, being creative, making new traditions, engaging the full donor, segments and things of that nature, as well as, taking the learnings, both positive and negative, to go forward and do things such as the 35 plus and take advantage of moments that maybe got missed, as well as celebrate the ones that are new in front of you. And lastly, we just wanted to end, again, thanks Kathy and Madison for joining us, but as well, thanks to all of you who participated in today's call, as well as we were curious. So we took a look through the past 12 months here, and have run 34 different webinars of different degrees, and have had almost 24,000 unique people register, such as all of you listening today, and truly do appreciate your time and advice, and keep sending us the feedback. At the end of this call in a moment here, you're going to see a survey that, if you could please take a moment. We look at that every month when we try and generate new content and make it the most relevant for all of you. So with that, we thank you. We hope you have a happy holiday season. We look forward to seeing you after the turn of the new year. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Happy New Year, everyone.